been a day, man. It's been a day. But you know what? It's going to be a better day because we're about to talk about freaking tariffs. Everybody's talking
Yay!
about tariffs.
Man, for as much problems as we had in our industry, there are a few others these days that are going through some real turmoil, like today, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, but intros, sorry, don't let me get in the way.
No, it's awesome. Guys, it's way after 5 o'clock because I had to restart my computer and shut it down and do all kinds of other stuff and stand on one leg and spin in a circle. But I'm here and it's 5 o'clock on Monday, so it's time for after hours real estate. My name's Chris. I'm a real estate broker outside of Austin, Texas. That guy is Steve. He's a he's a mortgage loan originator. He doesn't have anything to do with real estate. Well, kind of. Also outside of Austin. And it's after 5. So we typically have alcoholic beverages. My friend, what
But
are you doing?
are you drinking tonight?
I asked you.
I asked you second. I'm doing a Stella Artois, my friend.
Guys, you have so much class. I am drinking. I am drinking a sparkling water from HEB. Cheers, my friend.
Excellent. Cheers, my friend. How are you? You can stay there, but we can't talk right now.
Man, I'm good.
Oh.
Life is good. We get to talk about fun stuff on this show. Guys, if you're watching the show and you've got questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, you want to tell us we're brilliant, put them in the comments. We like to hear that. If you want to tell us we're morons, you can put that in there too. But typically, I'll get upset and like lash out. That's just kind of what I do. Um, so, man, uh, tariffs, and everybody's talking about them. So we may as well talk about what the heck they're going to do to real estate, right?
You know what's funny is I know we're going to read something today that I sent to you. No one knows. No
No,
one
nobody,
alive.
nobody
No one
has.
alive. Yeah, no one's experienced this, and you can't compare today's market to, the 1700s market. It just can't be done. And world trade doesn't look anything like it used to. It's just you can't do it. So it's nobody knows, and people are talking like they know, followed up by a quick sentence of, but it could be anything, and you just like 2 or 3 paragraphs of I'm right, I'm never wrong, and then at the end, but I'm not really sure, and
But yeah, we
it's
could be wrong.
yeah.
Could be
So
wrong on it. I did before we jump into the article. It's a short article, guys, so probably going to be a fairly short show today. Um, I was trying to figure out. Okay, let's say that this ends with, well, evidently it's Mexico's already said no, we'll do what you want. So that's something.
Canada too.
What's that?
Canada too. I just read about it a few minutes ago.
Oh crap! Well, of course they did
They're both
because I was
sending
trying.
10,000 troops to the border.
There you go. Perfect. Um, the what I was trying to figure out is how would they affect building and construction and real estate, right? Because that's how they would affect it is in construction. So I did some research. Do you know how much lumber product we import from Canada?
No.
Like of our total lumber usage?
From my understanding, we provide a lot of our lumber ourselves.
We do.
Uh, and in fact, I think if I'm not mistaken, we have more dense forests in the United States today than we did when we got here,
I've
because
heard
of a government order basically telling people if they had enough wood, they could do something on the. I'm not sure what it was actually. Now that I'm
that.
missing
Forestry. Yeah.
distant
Shelley,
memory, but yeah.
2 million what? What? I don't know what that is. 2 million. 30%. 30% of our lumber usage is imported from Canada.
Okay.
So a third ish. That's not that much. And even if they increased tariffs on that 25%, oh, my buddy has a son who is calling him right now. But
How
even
about
if
that?
they increase tariffs on that, we would probably get less lumber from Canada. So I don't know. Retaliatory tariffs from Canada don't really scare me. Um, I don't know. Sorry,
It scares the crap
America.
out of me.
Does it really?
Oh yeah, all of this stuff scares me. Um, imagine if you went into a corporate office on Monday and you said, "All right, everyone, we're no longer using printers and scanners. You're going to use your cell phone, and we're no longer going to print. So just deal with it." You'd have HR being contacted by 40% of the staff. Talks over by the coffee machine. And what's happening now is not getting rid of the printers. It's more like eviscerating the printer, destroying half the building, setting the other half on fire, and then saying we're not going to use any more than one bottle of water each, right? And people don't know what to do. I mean, if they're running around with their heads, cut off, right? It's I've never seen anything like this before. So
But are people running around scared, dollars, not percentages of buying the dogs? Okay. Are they running around scared for a reason or because this is completely different from what anybody
well, it depends on who we're talking to, right?
Yeah.
Um, if you're yeah, something like that, right? That's huge, right? And so,
Wait, I've got to get context from this. I don't understand old people who depend on Canada for cheap meds.
or any country, China, we're putting a 10% tariff on them. Last I read, I haven't heard anything that's happening with that yet.
I mean, and I get like I was thinking construction industry, but are we putting a lot of effort into bringing in meds made overseas other than fentanyl?
But
Um,
here's the thing: if you're a worrier, you hate all of this because it brings huge amounts of uncertainty to the
Uncertainty.
world you know.
Yep.
If you're an optimist, you love all of this because it shakes things up in a way that could turn out really well. But what you've really done is you've got a lot of people that are unable to keep up, that are freaking out. It's prime for misinformation
And that's why I
going out.
said I think it's the uncertainty. Yeah, yeah. That
So
that was kind of my point on it.
you
But
already had people freaked out about the change, and now they're happening so quickly that it's just
yeah,
adding fuel to the fire. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I've been terrified about all of this in just kind of a neutral way, to be blunt with you, because obviously I see both sides, um, but as far as home price builds and Canada specifically, I can't see it making a huge difference to the negative. I can see it making a difference to the positive, because with tariffs we eliminate, theoretically, federal income tax. So yes, things might cost more, but you'd have a hell of a lot more dollars to spend. And so you said
if
thirty
we could do
percent of the
that,
lumber comes from Canada, which means 70% of the lumber stays here, right?
right?
So then we'd either give more money to lumber companies here, which they can't produce lumber much faster, right? You got to grow it,
Yeah,
or with projections, etc. Or hey man, 30% of the lumber costs more. So yeah, the build's not going to go up by 30%, right? But 30% of it might be a little bit more expensive, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Um, but the real question are the builders themselves, right? Anyways, I'm not worried about Canada for the builders, right? I'm worried about Mexico for the builders. And I even argued against this on the last show. And maybe it's the media influencing us, right? But I've seen some pretty scary videos of empty places, where the estimates now are being redone on how many people there were,
yeah,
possibly triple or quadruple, what we originally thought they were. Um, and so it's I think you're going to see effects of this. I know you will see effects of this in about 3 months everywhere. And it's a slow beast we live in, this economic, beast we live in, right? But it moves, and man, when it moves, you don't stop it. I mean, it's a wrecking ball.
yeah.
So,
And
so
Carolyn's. Oh wait, man, it won't let me do multiple things at once. Carolyn's talking about could take the stock market. It could. That's a fact. And this one, John's saying tariffs are more like a bargaining chip. I thought, and that's the interesting thing that I'm taking out of this because tariffs are only scary when they're put into place, and so far we haven't even had to put anything into place.
well, name me one other president that would say to China, "We're going to make everything from your country 30% more expensive unless you do what we want."
None, and that's the reason half the country voted for him.
We're not going to get into that. I'm just saying,
I'm just saying.
well, the last comment on tariffs, on I thought they were a tool, right?
Yeah.
Correct, for the right negotiator. And I'm not sure
Well,
we've, in my living memory, I mean, Reagan was president when I was born. I know he was an actor, but was he a great negotiator? I know a lot of stories and things, but I didn't know. But in my living memory, in terms of presidents, I've never known,
No.
Barack Obama or George Bush or anyone else to get up there and be like, nope, we're just your tariff, and
Yeah.
man, you start hiking up tariffs on things. And originally, an income tax was illegal. There was
Right.
a bill of rights. Jesus, come on,
Well, I
Steve.
mean, look, the point behind our country is taxation without representation. I mean, that's the whole damn point.
Right, and so tariffs were the way we became wealthy, because our citizens weren't taxed, so they had lots of extra money. They were allowed
That's
to,
right.
able to buy
It's
things.
purchased and purchased. But and so
Yeah.
that goes to my point though on this is because you had mentioned, okay, can we get rid of income tax? And I'm going, well, hell, we haven't seen any tariffs put into place yet. How are we going to generate all this income if we don't have any tariffs? We're not getting rid of the income tax system anytime soon, not at this rate. So I don't know. Let's jump into
But
this.
that's the thing. When you're dealing with someone who believes telling you their plans ruins all negotiations, you have no idea what their plans are.
That's a
And
fair
s- and,
point.
and and quite frankly, look, man, if you're a military commander, I don't want our generals telling the enemy what they're doing before they do it. That's stupid, right? However, when you're Wall Street, for instance, and you've got a president that's like, well, maybe or maybe we won't just get rid of the whole financial thing. I don't know. We'll just see tomorrow. Like, it's freaky, man. It freaks people out, and they don't know what to do, or how to look at it. And not everyone on Wall Street is a Republican, and not everyone on Wall Street is a liberal.
Right.
And there's varying opinions on how people perceive the world. And when you've got a leader doing those kinds of things, I'm not going to argue that half the side of the world right now is not, happy, but the other half of the side is equally unhappy by these
Oh yeah,
changes.
without a doubt.
And
Without a doubt.
it takes all of us to move forward. So I'm a little bit concerned about the pace of these things. At the same time, I'm also excited about the pace. If it happens fast enough, it'll happen so fast people won't even know what happened, right?
Right.
But maybe that's bad. You don't know,
Yes.
So I don't know. I've always had some comfort in the slowness of government. If you know what I mean? Like, even if they're doing something colossally wrong, it might take them 8 months to 18 months to even start talking about it. So at least we can get somebody in there with some brains, right? You know what I mean? Like, there'll be time.
Right.
Um, I don't know. But if you look at like mortgages, they've done almost nothing. I mean,
No.
we went up 3 basis points, we went down 3 basis points, we went up six, and then we went down six. That was literally my report today,
Yeah.
a few hours ago. I haven't looked at it since, but the market's like, it's just waiting. It's like it's sitting on the
Oh, it's
line,
waiting.
ready to run one way or the other, but it's just
Yep.
waiting, and it doesn't know what to do.
Yep. That's exactly right.
And quite frankly, we had these tariff wars that were over in 12 hours for two different countries, right? And that's the
Yes, sir.
third time this has happened. So again, what the hell's going on? Nobody knows.
We don't.
Sorry.
We don't. All right, let's jump into this article. So this is from Mortgage News Daily, which we talk about quite a bit on here, and that's if you're looking for interest rates, guys, track Mortgage News Daily. That will give you kind of an average, and we always talk about, your credit worthiness and all these other things are going to affect your interest rates. But if you want to just get an idea of average, mortgagenewsdaily.com is a
Yes.
really good place to get that information.
They're quite boring, and this is the one time you want them to be. So yeah.
That's right. Yep, absolutely. So making sense of bond market reaction to tariffs. Do you want to give me a 30-second uh, thought on how bond markets are related to the interest rates? 30 seconds. That's all you got is 30 seconds.
Oh God. A bond is another form of government security. So it's something the government sells to make money. When the government charges another country tariffs on their products that are delivered to us, then that country has to pay our government money just to get the product here.
Right.
Um, there's almost no difference between the two in theory, right? A country is going to buy our debt. That's not entirely true, actually. There's a huge difference, but
Yeah.
in terms of bargaining chips, there's not much of a difference, right? Other countries will buy huge amounts of our bonds as a favor to us and then hold the bonds, and it's kind of like backdoor stuff. But the tariffs are forced, the bonds are friendly.
Yep.
So it's the other side of the coin. I would call it. They don't work the same, okay? But as far as Trump is considering them, they do. Um, yeah. But long story short is that if we start putting tariffs on everything, um, it will essentially do hopefully the same thing as the bonds. However,
Who knows?
Nobody really knows. The theory is sound, right? But nobody knows, and I'm telling you, no one knows, including me, right? And so keep going. Sorry, keep writing.
You're good. You had 30 seconds. There you go. You nailed it. So as we discussed heading into the weekend, this is Matthew Graham about 7 hours ago. Um, and the likely official tariff announcement, the only recent conclusive track record the market has for tariffs is that they cause enough economic contraction to offset any inflationary implications. Wow, that's a hell of a sentence.
In other words, they equal everything out.
Right, right. It
Peter
should,
and Paul,
if
man.
tariffs cause inflation, then on the other hand, the bond market should flatten that out.
I tell you what they are. They're a hell of a lot less shady than bonds are. People don't understand bonds. They understand
Yeah.
tariffs.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean that car is going to cost 30% more for China to send over here? They got to pay us just to send it here? That makes sense. What the hell is a bond again? How does it work? There's a five and a half
Heard
percent bond, a 6% bond, a 6.5% bond. It changes all day. It's made by the Fed. What is it not made by the Fed? No one understands. Go ahead. Sorry.
True. The bond market traded with some caution as tariff plans came into focus, but tariff driven selling was always a very small drop in the bucket compared to the data driven selling and speculation over the other impacts of fiscal policy, i.e., pro growth and lower revenue. With all that in mind, don't be surprised to see bonds paying more attention to the economic implications of big tariffs. Okay, for good reason. This is the easiest to visualize on days where the stock market is tanking hard and bonds are benefiting from a flight to safety. Okay. Basically, what that's saying is that when the stock market is tanking, people are leaving the stock market, which has a ton of volatility, and they're putting their
Why?
in bonds. Yeah,
Why?
because of uncertainty. There's uncertainty and
So it's really because they're investing in the dollar.
uncertainty in volatility, and the volatility is in the dollar. Yes,
Right.
yes. Or no,
They're
they're investing
parking
in
their
the
money.
stability of the dollar. Sorry.
Right, they're parking their money, but after 2008, that changed quite a bit after the Fed said, "Well, we're just going to print more." So people then stopped buying our bonds in droves like they used to.
That's
It-
right.
anyways, keep
Well,
going.
I mean, yeah, because it destabilizes them. I mean, yeah, we saw that
Well,
in
the Fed
2000.
destabilized them, but yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So with all that in mind, don't be surprised to see bonds paying more attention to economic implications of big tariffs. This is the easiest to visualize on days where the stock market is tanking, bonds are benefiting. Similarly, don't be surprised when the overnight bond rally reverses on reports of fruitful talks between Trump and Mexico's president, which includes a 1 month pause on US and Mexico tariffs. And evidently now the news about Canada.
Same
So
thing.
bonds were going up. Now that's probably going to pause. No surprise that the bounce aligns with a bounce in equities as well. Okay, so let's look at the chart because everybody likes shiny charts. You're going to have to explain this to me, dude, because I don't understand this chart. The dollar bounced. The 10-year bond is up. Okay, S&P futures are up. Help me out here, man.
Really, in other words, when the whole market heard that there was going to be financial pain in one sector, they took their money out and put it into another sector, which was dollars,
Yeah,
right? Dollars. Um, they didn't really invest in bonds, though. I know what this is showing, but if you look at the market today, again, I haven't looked at it at the end of the day, but it basically did nothing. Um, so what are these now? Overnight rallies. So I can't see because it's too
and that's
small. Are
really
those, is that the S&P 500 or something? I can't see them.
well. You've got the U.S. dollar to the peso up top.
Right.
10-year bonds is blue. S&P is here, and
Now
I'm
look,
not sure
these
what the other
these
one
things
is.
are used to exaggerate anyways. Did you just say US dollar to peso?
It says U.S. dollar/peso.
Okay, well then what's the peso been doing recently and why?
I'm sure it's tracking with the U.S. dollar.
Well, hold on a second. Weren't they just threatened with tariffs?
Yeah. Oh,
What
so
would
they're
that do to the value of the currency?
should drive it down.
Right. And then we're talking about our currency having people throw money into it. So this is an unfair graph. Is
Yeah.
what this is. This is meant to make you go, "Wow, look at these numbers." You really look at what you're reading. It's I don't really pay attention to the graphs. Graphs and statistics are usually the number one liar, man. You can
Yeah.
make them look any way you want. Um and the truth is when you really look at all the numbers, nobody knows what it's going to do. Right?
Yeah.
If people start, well, I mean, you're not going to stop buying bonds, right? Just because tariffs are around. You're forced to pay tariffs, right?
Yeah.
Um, I just don't know. But we've also found that the bond market is dictated not by the Fed, right?
Correct.
We've all seen this. So anybody who thinks the Fed should step in and help, they can't.
Yeah.
There's an
No.
illusion that they can, and they'd love to keep that illusion up, but they are unable to at all.
Right. It's all driven by people investing. I mean, that's the driver.
Well, then
Uh,
that's the hidden. Some people think the Fed has other arms that create the money that buy the bonds when no one else will, to
right.
keep the market afloat. No one can
Yeah, I've
prove this,
heard
of
that.
course.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm taking out of this overall, and this is essentially, yeah, like an 18-hour graph where, okay, S&P starts high and the futures end up kind of middle of the graph. That's the only thing that really changed in this 18 hours. US dollar is roughly unchanged 18 hours later.
See, but
The
show me 18, weeks, right? Don't show me
Yeah,
just
yeah.
18. I mean, you start looking at
Well,
like the minutes on things, and oh my God, there's a huge drop of 0.001%. It's like, but it looks huge on a chart. It's like, anyways.
right, but the overall point behind this is, of course it's going to go, but they're talking about the tariffs and the impact on them, right? And so the 10-year bond is roughly unchanged also in that 18 hours. And the volatility of we're imposing tariffs. Oh, wait, no, we're not. They capitulated, blah, blah, blah. So
So look, we
anything
hadn't even
essentially
made any
unchanged
money on
later.
tariffs yet. No tariffs had
No,
even been enacted at that point. It was the threat of tariffs, and money moves just from the threat of it. In fact, this is a really great learning opportunity for people who don't understand why the nothing happened when the Fed announces a rate cut, right? The market doesn't wait around. They do what they think it's going to do.
yeah.
And
And this is why interest rates have remained level because they're like all of this is going to be a nothing burger and they're just maintaining level.
well, people are freaking out. And what I can tell you is that when people worry about their money, they tend to hug it, right?
Oh yeah, we put it in safe things like, oh, I don't know, 10-year bonds.
And even dumb or smart people put it into cash, right? Depending on what
Well, yeah,
period of history you're in. But people will typically sell their positions that they're invested into and then put them into either something safe or just hold on to cash, right? And I would be afraid that if much more of this happens, the real risk is that we'd have a stock market crash.
that's what Carolyn's talking about. Yeah, because again, the risk and the volatility. I mean, I saw something the other day on the swings. Like there's Dow Jones Industrial stuff. I've been seeing it swing 10 points in a day and then end up in the same spot where it started. But it doesn't matter if it's ending up where it started. It's the uncertainty, the volatility that people freak out about. And they're like, screw this. I don't want it. So
I just
yeah,
anybody who tells you what's going to happen has no idea.
that's a fact. That's a fact. But anyway, so, okay. Essentially, bonds are reacting. If tariffs are enforced, then the bonds are going to go higher and the stock market's going to drop. That's what I'm seeing overall here. Easy
I don't
enough?
know. Honestly, we'll see. We'll see, man. I'll tell you all the predictions I've read, which I just told you don't mean anything, but
Yeah,
are basically saying that we're not going to see much better than a 6% this year. We should teeter
yeah.
somewhere between 5.5 and 7.5. If I'm going to be nice
Yeah.
and generous with my estimate there. I wouldn't
Well,
be surprised if we finished the year with 6%. I would be surprised if we finished the year at like 4%. Right? I don't think things are going to get much better from here in terms of the rate. And if they do, I think it's going to be a wild ride. Okay, because it's not like things are just going to settle down in a couple weeks.
yeah.
If anything, I
Well,
think once it starts getting warm out and people aren't, hindered by snow, they're going to come out in droves, and we're going to see a lot of turmoil.
probably more than likely. But also keep in mind, and I think we talked about this in December, the companies that I don't think no, it's not the ones that regulate interest rates, but the people that kind of predict what they think is going to happen. I thought I read there's like 15 different ones that do predictions, and 14 of the 15 all had it somewhere right around 6.25 at the end of the year. So, you
Nice.
know,
So I
per-
went on to ChatGPT and asked it, for who did the best prediction.
yeah,
It told me one person had done well last year in the mortgage market, but not.
right,
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah.
Very
I
interesting.
don't know, but so I mean, they're all kind of in lockstep now. Again, if they could predict things, whatever, but because we don't know what's going to happen. All right, man. So I'm going to switch gears on you here. During the election cycle, you and I. Oh, what is John popping up here? How will the Panama Canal talks affect trade, especially with China, if they try to push their agenda on both ends of the canal? How much of the housing and commercial building products go through there? I don't know. I wouldn't think there's a lot of housing and commercial I guess it could if it's shipping to the East Coast or the Gulf Coast, but I would think the vast majority of that stuff comes in on the West Coast, so it doesn't go through there. I don't know that. I'm just
China
guessing.
China provides, from what I understand, precious minerals, pre-done things like a dog kennel kind of thing that's been put
Yeah,
together on its own. And in terms of manufacturing, right? I think they probably have a large manufacturing base in everything but houses. Now, I could be wrong, and I don't know that, so certainly don't quote me on that.
yeah.
But
Well, but think about the things that they do produce in terms of TVs, fans,
sure, and the
everything.
equipment that might put it together as well. Yes,
Yeah,
but they're not shipping over manufactured houses, right?
yeah. Right.
It wouldn't be economically viable with the, at least you'd think it wouldn't, with the shipping and all that. You can just make it
Yeah,
here, right? We're talking wood and drywall.
yeah,
When you factor in the $10,000 shipping crate, I just can't imagine, for an entire house, right? Um, but China's not going to take that sitting down either. The
no,
Panama Canal chose not to extend their Belt and Road Initiative with
all
China,
that.
which is a big deal. China's not going to be happy about it. I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah,
I'd be more scared if they did nothing and said nothing, right? Because they're
yeah,
they're the kind of nation that typically doesn't just say we didn't like that. They say we didn't like that. You do it again, and we're going to kick your ass, kind of thing. I mean, they're really, really, out there with their comments like that kind of stuff, right? And so, um, what's it going to do to housing? Honestly, I'd be more afraid of the tariffs than China's housing help, right?
yeah,
Um, as we saw in COVID, companies can quickly make shifts to other brands, other types of things,
yeah.
to cut costs again. I wouldn't be that worried about constructing new construction of a home. Um, I would be worried about the value of the dollar, inflation, stock market, so reserves for people, right? I'd worry about those things. I
Mhm.
do think in the long run, if this can live itself out to fruition, yeah, which should be good. But in the short term, it's going to be a hell of a ride. Now, if however, inflation does hit us hard, like it did say in the '70s, then your home will be worth much more money at the end of the
Yep,
decade, and by much more, we're talking 3 or 4 times more, right? And that would
yep.
just be the norm. But who knows? I haven't heard the deflation word in a while, but
No,
who knows?
haven't
Who
heard
knows?
stagflation in a while either.
Again, no
One of
one
the other
knows.
one of the
Great
other things
question.
that I'll mention on China is a lot of people don't realize China's making a massive investment in a lot of other countries to outsource their manufacturing and stuff. One of those countries is Mexico. China is opening factories, I believe, for like cars, electronics, stuff like that in Mexico because it's such a direct shipment across, and because of the North American Free Trade Agreement, then they can just get them into the US because they're made in Mexico. So that's something that has been going on now for at least 4 or 5 years. I don't know how many factories are up and running and all that other stuff, but just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as something that has happened, and is continuing to happen. Whatever effect that has on anything, who knows? But shifting on this, oh man, we got to be quick on this. God, we're not going to be able to do this today, Steve. I got my other show. Shoot, we're gonna do a teaser. We're gonna do a teaser to get you back next week. Um, Steve and I were talking during the election about um, this. How can a president affect the housing market? I think that's the best way to say it, right? And one of the candidates, Kamala Harris, was saying that she would propose a $25,000 gift grant to first time home buyers. And we talked about it at the time, and talked about how that would affect prices and stuff like that. So next time, I've got a guy that has taken that and tweaked it a little bit, and I want to get your thoughts on it.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. Remember for Monday.
Perfect. See you next week, brother.
See you next week. Guys, same time, same channel. Next week. Later. Oh no, I got to hit end.